Hi, I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101, and this is a second follow-up video for someone who's very concerned about his safety and threats on his life. He told me he wanted me to be more specific and make a video about the actual things that he believes are happening to him. And he says, make a video on psychopaths, because I found out that these people are stalkers. They're invading my privacy, and the corrupt cops at their side are helping them. It's becoming like a gang, and going to law enforcement won't help. They laugh at him, and they try to set him up and blame things on him. They're gang members, he thinks, and mafia members, and he says they practice Satanism too. Basically, what he's talking about here is they're diabolical people, and he'd like me to make a video talking about how to deal with bullies and corruption when you're living in a bad neighborhood. This is a really unusual one for someone to actually think that someone that offers conscious counseling advice can help with. And I'm glad to help any way that I can, but you're in a really difficult situation, and all I can do is try to bolster your spirit and your conscious growth so that you have a fighting chance to be the best that you can be. Remember, I ended the last video by saying I want you to really fathom and contemplate all these ideas so that when the chips are down and they come at you, you have the best possible chance of making the right, calm decisions. Chance favors the prepared mind. So while you're living, and they haven't framed you, and they haven't come and tried to execute you, you have time. Who knows how long that time is? Could be a day, could be a year, might not ever happen at all. You're 29 years old, you have some religious beliefs, Catholic. He asked me to talk about psychopaths. A psychopath, according to the definition, is a person suffering from chronic mental disorder or with abnormal or violent social behavior symptoms. This video is going to be about, and it can really only be about this because I can't give you advice on how to battle gang members, okay? It's really going to be only about reinventing yourself. Making yourself the best person that you can be while you're trapped in your environment, and seeing if you could somehow get yourself to where you can emerge out of this environment one day. Maybe you'll be able to do it before the difficulties come. Maybe you'll prepare yourself so that you can avoid the difficulties. Like that quote I said from the Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon movie. And he put him in a little dinghy and he said, let's go fight on that beach if you want to settle our score. And he says, I'll go with you. And he lets the guy get in first, and then he sets the dinghy off. And the boat he's sailing on keeps on going. You know, I've been in martial arts for a long time, and if Bruce Lee does something like that in a movie, well, that's good enough for me. I don't see him as a coward, because if he had to fight, he could, and maybe you can, maybe you can't, I don't know. But he chooses not to first. I remember in self-defense, in the various martial arts that I've taken, we were always told to not use this to abuse anybody, but only as a last resort to defend ourselves or the honor or the life of another person if that's threatened. The point I'm trying to make is, one of our heroes we've seen, you've probably seen some of his movies, or at least clips of them, taking out a whole dojo of people on his own, taking out a whole island of terrorists and whatnot on his own. You know, but then when he has a chance and someone comes up to him and says, let's do this, he just finds a way to get out of it. Hey, I think that's a great way to be. And when you reinvent yourself, some of the things I want to talk to you about is it's going to be really, really, really hard for you because you're in a bad neighborhood. You're feeling threatened. You're feeling that those around you are infringing on your rights and your privacy and your very health and well-being and mentality. And I wanted to bring up, you're too young, really. I grew up with Westerns. There wasn't anything on TV but Howdy Doody, Batman, Superman, the Lone Ranger, and Westerns. And one of the things they always would say, they'd get up and they'd come up close to each other and they'd go, this town ain't big enough for the two of us. And not one of them would back down. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Seuss, with the north-going Zach and the south-going Zacks, and they met up, and neither one of them would get out of the way. And they just stood there, and whole freeways and towns were built around them over the years. I would advise you not to be stubborn, not to have pride, not to use foul language, not to try to relate to the types of people that you're around and try to outdo them. If you embarrass them or give them something to poke at, fun at you, or make an example out of you, then you give fuel to their fire and you make it so that they'll want to do it even more, whatever they want to do, so that they can tell their buddies, like kind of like a guy that says, hey, I'm a hot guy, I got together with this girl, and she gave in to me, that kind of thing. They want to go back to the water cooler and they want to talk. Maybe this is a lot more complex than that, but the truth is, even in their minds, they're probably thinking, if I can put this guy down, then I'm going to be better off. King of the hill. I'll blame things on him. Cops will leave me alone. I'll go back and brag to some of my buds. Hey man, I'm a real cool, tough guy and I took care of him, so you better not mess with me because then I'll take care of you. That kind of mentality. Like the Cowboys. This town ain't big enough for the two of us. Reach for it. Draw! That's how it was settled back there in the Wild West. This isn't the Wild West, but you come to a person that doesn't live in the Wild West, I see a lot of these difficult things, and I realize that living in a bad neighborhood could be much worse than what I have to deal with on a regular basis. I've reinvented myself, but I have had the ability to do it in safety. You have to try to reinvent yourself, not even knowing if you can ever get out of that neighborhood or become somebody else. But even when you're in that neighborhood, you need to try to be somebody else. To these people, you need to become irrelevant. You cannot pump them up. You cannot say, look at me, and go around, parading like some big proud rooster. Because if you're like an alpha male, all the other alpha males are going to come at you. Let me read you something. And this is probably too long to read the whole thing, but I want to read this to you. You've heard of the Western, where they come together and they shoot. One of them lives, one of them doesn't. There's also the rats in the cage. There's been studies done on this. And I'll just read a little bit of it. Many people will find it difficult to compare human populations to rat populations. Many humans will suffer for that cognitive impairment. When a pair of reproductively competent rats are placed in a closed space and provided with sufficient food, they will reproduce and reproduce until the space is filled with rats. At a critical density, wars break out. Some rats, alpha males, claim territory and defend it. Others attack. Sound familiar? Only difference between rats and humans is the ability to have language making capability. The human left brain. We humans give names to our territories. World Trade Center is one. The right brain, impelled by drives and emotions, is the fundamental force operating here. The left brain reasons for what the right brain is going to do anyway. Some of these reasons are democracy, Islam, God, Allah, terrorist, third world, globalization. What this is getting at is, if you could reinvent yourself and pull yourself out of that mix, go into the smallest corner of the cave, don't confront the big rat that wants to kill you. Don't embarrass him. Don't force him to defend his territory. Everything you want to do is to try to be Mr. Meek, Mr. Humble. While you're reinventing yourself and becoming more than them, if you possibly can, and this could take some time. I don't know if you have the resources available to you to reinvent yourself. Even the libraries right now are closed. Almost everybody has the internet. I mean, you could look up things on the internet and say, I want to reinvent myself. How can I become somebody that is more worthy? I mean, you've already contacted me. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to do what I can for you. You've already got to the point where you're in a place where you've got all this stuff on your plate, just way more than you can handle. And I can't even imagine being stuck there and not having resources. People come to me all the time and say, look, I have potential. I just need you to show me what to do with it. All I can say to you is, don't make yourself a target. Believe in yourself and your self-value. Just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Yeah, they may very well try to do something that you're suggesting they may try to do. But they may not. Or it may be a while down the road. You have every day given to you as an opportunity to develop yourself, to become a different projection of yourself to those entities. I would suggest that you become of a prepared mind, because chance favors the prepared mind, the prepared person. I would suggest that you become everything you can be in this time that you have, no matter how long it is, to become the most person you can be, but also become invisible. Don't do anything that would bait them. Don't do anything that would make you a good example of, if you can be dealt with, look at me, I dealt with him. Make yourself not a prize in their eyes. Make yourself something that's so insignificant that they can go on to other things. But of course, bullies pick on the weak and the cowards. I'm not asking you to be weak and be a coward. You know, Batman said, criminals are a cowardly lot. You know, that's why he jumps out of the darkness and boom, and does something fast and big, because he knows he has that moment of their cowardness that's going to confront him first, and he's going to overcome that by his dominance. Don't rely on those fantasies of movies and comics. Don't go there. You're not Batman. You'll be snuffed out. Guns and knives are very strong elements against the frail human body. But those that wield them feel they're empowered and they can overcome with these things in their hands. But the other people have them too. So they're a great common denominator. They level the playing field. They'll make it so that none of them really win out. It's not like the Old West. I'm better than you. Boom. You're gone. You're dead. The town wasn't big enough for the two of us. Oh, now I own this town. It's not going to work like that in reality. The best thing you've got is to diffuse the situation. To figure out why are they pinpointing you. Maybe you're paranoid. I don't know you from Adam. You've given me just a few paragraphs to talk to you with anything about. I really don't have much to go on here. At first, you were totally skeptical, and you thought I was a fraud and that I was just a fake. Well, you were wrong. I wonder how many of your assessments you're making about life and the people in it are because of your limited experience. I know when you feel like you're in a bad neighborhood, you feel like, hey, you're tough, you've got worldly experience, you've got to be, you grew up in the trenches, you've got to be smart, and you've got to be tough, and you've got to know things. You probably feel like, I know how to cope, I've survived this long. But you know what? It's just survival of the fittest, and maybe you've gotten lucky, maybe you still will get lucky, but if you keep trying to be like an alpha male, eventually you'll be one of those rats in the cage that succumbs to the gang up of the other alpha males. I wouldn't take that tact. If you've got pride, that's a bad thing. If you've got this feeling that you're a tough guy and you'll be showing that you're not a tough guy, if you don't come on like gangbusters to them, that's a bad thing. If you feel like you go and lie in a corner somewhere and you just stay out of their way and try to avoid them when you're going on the street or whatever and become some new person, and you feel that's a bad thing, it probably won't happen. But I say, what have you got to lose? You're already worried that they're there. You may be right, you may be wrong. You were wrong about me. Maybe you're wrong about them. Maybe your emotions are so high. I don't know if you use drugs or anything like that. I don't know if there's any other factors in your life that make your emotions higher than they would normally be. I haven't given much to go on. I apologize if I can't hit every nail right on the head with what little you've given me. But maybe you have done something or come across some way that makes you noticed by these people. Lessen that, diffuse it, apologize, be humble. Do what you can to undo the damage and not create any new damage in that vein. That would be the best advice I can give to you on this second video. And I keep them under 15 because the phone only loads up to 15 minutes. If you'd like to talk further, tell me if I was on anything or if I was off on anything, or you want to give me new information to deal with, which I don't have now, by all means, I'd be glad to continue to talk with you, and I am. Sorry for the strife and the difficulties that you're currently under. I'm Paul Roberts, and this is Conscious Counseling 101.